Uh, Hello, can you see my screen? No, not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, and now?
Yes, it's there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone. This is the Sprint 37 summary and demos for Kiali project. So today we would like to give you a highlights as what we have what progress in within the sprint, and also Joel will tell you more details about the work integration with Kafka, and also my colleague Mas will give you updates about what are the progress in the graph or security devices. So yeah, first of all, thank you for everyone collaborating in the project. So just to give you what we are doing. So our sprint is tracking is public. So we track every sprint on the GitHub project. So if you wonder what is the roadmap of the project, what are the priorities, what we are doing, what we plan to do in the next sprint, please don't hesitate to see our projects on any issue that you would like to raise priority. Just start a conversation with us, collaborate with us to give inputs about what could be more interesting to do, and the full visibility that we are planning to do in the next sprint in the Kiali project, and help us to grow the community in the site. So a couple of highlights of Sprint 37. What are the major areas that we are working? We introduced in the previous sprint the concept of extension in Kiali to allow other projects to integrate within the project and to introduce new features in Kiali. And one of the first integrations that we have is the ITER8 project integration. So if you don't know it, ITER8 is a project to automate canary releases and provide A/B testing for cloud native development. So it's a pretty cool project. You can see more details in ITER8 tools URL. It's an ongoing effort. The main idea is that ITER8 can analyze metrics that are created by Istio and provide more insight that what could be the best metrics and the best calculation to know which version could work better and a lot of criteria, and provide optimization in the project. So this is an ongoing effort. We started a very basic integration to allow to see iterate experiments, to create new experiments, to track what is happening within Kiali. And we hope that in the following sprint, we will have more work in this area, and we'll invite the iterate team also to provide more deep demo around this one. Okay. Another improvement that we did into Sprint is to add support for filtering by labels in the list pages. So now we provide filters in the namespace, in the overview, app, workload, services list pages. So we will be able to combine the existing filter by name, by status, etc., also with the label filter. So this will help. Also, we are working in progress to provide the visualization of these labels also in the apps in this list. Another ongoing effort is, as you know, Kiali, one of the features, the main feature of Kiali is to provide help when you are configuring Istio. So we are improving the capabilities combined with the Istio Galley capabilities to improve the validation features. So now we have improved in this sprint more validation around sidecars and around other networking objects and that is for me what I wanted to say. I'm going to stop sharing and I pass the mic to Joel.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to share my screen now. can you tell me when you see it, please?
Yes.
So this is, yeah, okay. So just continuing on the slides. So what about Kafka? So Kafka is a very popular streaming platform. I guess most of you at least have heard about it. And so it's for streaming data or event-based communication. And what we wanted to do here is at least to make sure that everything works fine when we use Kafka with Istio and Kiali. But yeah, just first, why would people ever want to use Kafka with Istio? Maybe the first question that we could have. Because Istio is mostly made as a primary intention, I think, is made for service-to-service communication. And most of the time it's with HTTP communication with requests and responses. And Kafka is not using this pattern. Kafka is a TCP communication, not HTTP, and with event-based communication, asynchronous communication. So it's a different mindset that we have to get, because, for instance, there are some Istio capabilities such as traffic shifting. We could wonder why would we want to use Istio with Kafka with that, because the traffic shifting is not probably going to work in the same manner, because when you shift traffic from when you are doing traffic shifting, most of the time you want it's between the service A and A, B, and you want to wait, for instance, put a ponderate traffic between these two services or things like this. With Kafka, it's different because it's communication is with a broker in the middle. So you have the Kafka broker. So it's not going to work the same way. But nonetheless, there are a lot of interest to use Kafka. There are still some things that are going to be very interesting, like all the throttling things, the rate limiting configuration, also the security configuration to have MTLS is something going to work with Kafka. And of course, and that's the central point for Kiali, the observability, of course, is interesting. So what we wanted here to do is at least see if it's still going to work correctly in Kiali. Because with Istio, it does work. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see any problem in all the scenario that I run to have Kafka working with Istio. For Kiali, we had a bunch of small issues, and some of them were raised by community, by some users who were telling us that they could not see edges in a Kiali graph when there is Kafka in the middle. So we wanted to know more about that. But there's a bunch of fixes that we did. And we considered two main scenarios. So I've been using Streamzy, the Kafka operator, basically for Kubernetes. It's developed at Red Hat, but there's other kind of operators that would work more or less the same. And we considered having Kafka, the Kafka deployment part of the mesh, so with Istio enabled on it, and so with the Istio sidecar deployed for every Kafka pod. And the other scenario was having a mesh external Kafka with a service entry definition. And so after the work that we did, this is how it looks with when we have Kafka in mesh. So here I have some microservices deployed. You can see, for instance, a web microservice, VLANs, Hero, that are sending that traffic to messaging Kafka brokers, which itself, so that's a service, messaging Kafka brokers, and itself forwards the traffic to the workload, Streamzy workload. So that works nice, and you can see that after the fixes that we've done, we can see this kind of graph in Kiali. As I said before, you will not be able to see the service-to-service relationship. So you don't see the business relationships between your services because Kiali shows the technical dependencies between elements. So, for instance, if my Hero service consumes or produces events that are consumed by the web service, you don't see that relationship directly in the graph, but you see the relationship with the Kafka brokers. So that's a point that to keep in mind when you see traffic with a traffic graph with a Kafka. And so for the second scenario with service entry, it's worked the same basically. So it's here I just put a screenshot without animation, so you don't see that, but it's pretty much the same, except that you just see the service entry here of Kafka. You don't see the details of what behind that service entry, which is what you would expect, because you don't. The idea is that this is not part of the mesh, so there's no sidecar on the Kafka workload, so it's not. It does not report traffic directly from this from Kafka, but you still see the traffic because they are reported from your own services. So this is also, there was a couple of fixes about that. So yeah, the different fixes that we did are actually not specific to Kafka. It's like if we have a new angle of vision above what we do with Kiali, and we just figure out that there are a couple of things that did not work well, but not specific to Kafka. For instance, we have enabled by default the stateful set visualization, because before in Kiali we had this performance reasons, we did not display every kind of workload. We displayed mainly deployments or things like this. It was still configurable, but by default you would not see stateful set. Now with this work that we did, we enabled stateful set visible by default, and we also enabled some cache of Kubernetes resources because of that. So we don't have any performance issue, and on the contrary, we have much better performance thanks to the cache, and we can see more workloads. We also fixed problems with headless services that did not appear in the graph. So, sorry, for instance, so again, it's not specific to Kafka. In my deployment with StreamZ, they are deployed as headless services. We also had some users in the community who reported problems. They did not see headless services with Elasticsearch. So that's the exact same problem. So we fixed that. And several other cases of missing metrics in Spark lines, for instance, with service entries that are fixed. And also we improved a little bit the traffic emission. That is, like for instance here, we did some improvements so that we can visually appreciate the traffic, the difference of traffic between the different edges that we had. We had already before the traffic animations, but now it's more visible the difference between the volumetry. And so what's next? We are still going to keep an eye on the Kafka protocol filter that is developing Envoy filters. So we did some tests. I did some tests with the new Envoy filter. So this is something that came in the Envoy community early this year or last year, at the end of last year also. Some experimental Kafka protocol decoder for Envoy. But it's still very experimental. It's not required to use Kafka. It's absolutely not required. In the example that I show, I did not use it, but we can have additional metrics, and it's also a placeholder for future development around Kafka in Envoy. But it still has to be picked up by the Istio community. Perhaps we could have some standardized Kafka metrics that would enable to have like default Kafka dashboard in Kiali, but at the moment, I don't think the metrics exposed by Kafka are really standardized. For instance, StreamZ can expose some metrics, and you have the Kafka Envoy filter would also expose different metrics. Not really standardized, so it's difficult to provide a minimal dashboard that works for every case. problem that we could speak about is display the business relationships in the graph. As I said before, we just today see the technical relationships, but not the business ones. But this today is more perhaps a problem of tracing more than volumetry, telemetry that we display in the graph in Kiali. And perhaps, I don't know, perhaps Istio could have more features for TCP traffic. For instance, traffic mirroring is something that is only possible with HTTP traffic and not TCP. We could imagine that for Kafka, we could have mirroring that, for instance, allow to have separate Kafka clusters and to duplicate events from a cluster to another. Maybe, I don't know. That's a possibility, but today it's not possible with Istio. And yeah, this is all that I have for Kafka.
Okay, thank you, Joel, for the updates on Kafka. So now I guess I can pass the mic to Mas with updates on Graph and other areas.
Okay, thank you, Lucas and Joel. I assume everyone can see my screen. I'm just continuing with the same presentation.
Yeah.
All right, so the Kiali graph now has the ability to visualize gRPC traffic. As you can see here in the graph edges, we can denote these as gRPC, and we can also see the gRPC codes and flags and some spark lines on the sidebar. In addition, on our metrics page, on our inbound and outbound metrics tabs, we have the ability to show metrics based on gRPC status. This goes over to our metrics page. On the graph page, back to the graph page, we have consolidated the display drop-down menu and the edge labels. So you'll now see we no longer have an edge label drop-down menu. We've consolidated that into the display. So you'll see our radio buttons up top here for the edge labels, and then the rest of the checkboxes for the other visualization elements that we can enable. So this just helps consolidate the menu, and it also shrinks the toolbar so it can fit on narrow screens. The next set of slides is going to talk about our Kiali.io documentation site. We did some changes here. When you go to the main page, the Kiali.io website, you're going to see a button now that shows the latest videos. So if you click this, it'll take you down to the bottom of the page and it'll show you we now have a series of quick demo videos that illustrate different features or different portions of Kiali. Also on the Kiali.io documentation website, we added a news section up at the top, which includes security bulletins, and we now finally have release notes. This is a big wish list that we've had for a while. We finally got the release notes up on the Kiali.io website. And one major thing we need to announce is that Kiali did have its first security release based on a couple CVEs that were reported. So it is recommended that Kiali users immediately upgrade. If you want more details on this, just go to that new Kiali.io security bulletin section on the website. Here's the link if you're interested. The only one up there now, and it'll give you some more details. There is a fix for upstream Istio users. You will get the fix if you've upgraded to Istio 1.5.1. If you're using Istio versions prior to 1.5.1, meaning 1.5.0 or earlier, there is a runtime fix through a simple update to the Kiali config map. It's a one command that you execute to change your config map in your cluster, and it will implement the security fix for you. This is all detailed on the security link here. And that is it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mas, for the updates. So thank you everyone for attending the summary of the Kiali Sprint 37. We start Sprint 38 Monday. And in 3 weeks, we expect you to join on to more demos and summary on the features. Thank you. Bye-bye.